NerdDice.
Welcome to the Stateless Codecast. This is episode number 101 in our series, Create a RubyGem, NerdDice. And this is a retrospective episode for those of you who have not seen one of these before. Every so often, periodically, usually when we finish a related kind of epic of content, like a release milestone, or we finish a bunch of related videos working on a larger than single feature, or sometimes when you finish a set of videos that are each doing a bunch of little things that aren't necessarily related but are being kind of batched together. We do a retrospective to kind of review what we did, figure out what went well, what we can improve, and then determine whether there are any action items that we can take. And when I go through this, the retrospective is kind of on the project itself, kind of me as a coder doing that, but also kind of at a meta level about the videos that are being produced. So something that went well could be video related, it could be code related, it could be combination. So we'll kind of get going on this. First thing we do is review what we've done so far up to this point. So this is a set of videos dating back technically, I think, to video episode 87, I want to say, when let me go to commits here. So we had a couple of videos. Our last retro in this series was after we released version 0.4 and bumped to version 0.5. So we had a video where we kind of did a downtime hodgepodge, and then end of 2022, after Christmas, when Ruby 3.1 was released, we did a video updating the bundle there. And then this kind of recent set of videos that I'm more caring about in the retrospective starts with February 1st of this year, where we update Ruby to 3.2 in this gem, and then do some much needed maintenance on the gem. So one of the things to note in this is, even when you do something well in the software world, it becomes in need of maintenance just by the virtue of time. So if you look forward to our retrospective board and then the Mediocre Karaoke at the end, they'll both kind of tie into that theme of time and kind of vanity of vanities, Ecclesiastes sort of stuff, or science fiction. We'll see. Anyway, so we did a bunch of things here. Some of them were items that we had done in the NerdDice.com Rails app that kind of went through them. Hey, that's a best practice. Add it to the backlog of the NerdDice RubyGem. So things like refactoring Rubocop, which is here now highlighted in orange. We added contribution guidelines. That's another video that we did similarly in the NerdDice.com series. We added a security policy to the gem, which I think will provide me the ability to, when we get later on to the updating all the versions, I have the ability. In that security policy, I said, hey, I'm deprecating 0.432 and 1, and after the certificate expires this time, support for those things will end, and you'll have kind of a year to upgrade your applications if you're including the NerdDice gem in it. Then we had one item on our code climate. So if we go back to, let me see if we can come back to the master branch outside of the commit history. We go to code climate here, and we had previously one code smell as it related to cognitive complexity. So we took a bigger method that was doing a lot of assignment branch condition type stuff and broke it down into kind of extracted two smaller methods out of that to reduce the cognitive complexity, the amount of kind of load on somebody's brain as they're trying to read the code into smaller things, and then did that. We dropped support officially for Ruby 2.7 in the latest version of our gem. Ruby 2.7 is end of life March 31st, I think, of 2023, and it's currently February 25th of 2023. So you can still use 2.7 on the legacy branches 0.4.1 and down. Make sure you use the patch versions if you are installing using high security, because the main reason why we did this unneglecting of the gem is that our gem signing certificate had been expired since December of 2021. So it went over a year where the gem signing certificate was expired. So if somebody wanted to install that gem with high security, you'd get an error saying, nope, this certificate is expired, you can't install this gem, which is a bad experience, and one, if you're not going to update and maintain your certificate, you're better off not having one. So that's, we'll see that one on the retro board in terms of evaluation of what we can do to prevent that. I went and consolidated the change log so that it's only in the master branch that the change log, the authoritative version of the change log exists. So you can see here, master branch, you go to the change log and it gives you the change log. If we switch to another branch here, say Ruby 0.4 stable, and we go to the change log, we'll get this, thank you Mario, but our princess is in another castle, and then link to the authoritative version of the change log. So that way I don't have to maintain the change log in all the legacy branches or anything else going on there, that there's one kind of true version of the change log that everybody can refer to. The other thing we did, and this was the longest video in the series, is taking all of the changes that we've done in this set of commits dating back to kind of January 2022 and figuring out which ones apply to each of the 4 legacy versions of the branch. So obviously updating the gem signing certificate had to go back to all of them, but the GitHub Actions changes, we don't have GitHub Actions in version 0.1, so that didn't apply, but we did the same thing to 0, 2, 3, and 4. Some of the RuboCop stuff, we applied the gem file and bundler changes to those, but I had to auto-correct the RuboCop violations that showed up from upgrading RuboCop, because especially between 0.4 and the ones below 0.4, there was a lot of change there in terms of that. So I couldn't just straight up cherry pick that commit. I had to kind of check out the bundled versions and then apply the kind of the RuboCop autocorrect to each of those branches individually. It wound up being over an hour of video, but if you are into Git cherry picking and rebasing and making sure your commits are signed and showing it's verified, that's the video for you. It's kind of a tedious administrative video, but if you run into that problem in the future, just remember that there's something out there that exists, and you can use it. And then finally, after releasing, I generated the checksums for the various versions and committed them to the master branch so that they're there. We created releases in GitHub. We tagged our releases. And then after all this, we pushed, at least provisionally, the version of our gem to 0.6.0. We'll find out later on whether I actually released a 0.6.0 or whether it turns into 1.0. Kind of how things go in the NerdDice.com Rails app might influence that, because once I've actually gone to production with the Rails app, I want a kind of 1.0 version that is a major version with a more stable, officially semantic version, an API or whatever. So that's that in terms of the review. Let's take a look now at the action items that we've got here. So we had a bunch of action items in progress. I'll start with the ones that I'm actually working on. So here we added, maybe you open an issue about devise, everything from there on down. You can take a look at the other retro videos in our retrospectives playlist and kind of get the story and background behind those, but I'm not going to go through all the ones below this because I didn't work on them at all. So first one, refactor Rubocop YAML files for NerdDice and NerdDice.com. I had the action item in the first retro from NerdDice.com. We took care of it in the videos leading up to the third retro for NerdDice.com, and then we left it in progress because we were still waiting on making those changes to the RubyGem. Now that we've made the changes to the RubyGem, we can move this to done and slide it over to our done column. The next thing that we had was to always check that commits are signed on pull requests before merging them. This is kind of an ongoing improvement item. There's no real way to measure this being done. I've done it so far. For now, I think I'm going to move this to done to get it off of our action items backlog. How do you measure a permanent change in behavior? I'm not going to just keep that in progress forever. So I think I've held to it so far. In the event that it needs rework, I can always move it out of done state and back into in progress. The days since accident, you can erase the 157 or whatever and put the 0 back and kind of slump your shoulders and go back to focusing on it as an improvement item. Devote some attention to the neglected Ruby NerdDice RubyGem. So this whole epic. I'm satisfied with how things are go. I think it's back how things have gone, not how things are go. I think it's back to a good maintained state. All of the versions have up-to-date signing certificates. The one code smell we had has been eliminated, so I think we're in good shape there. We can move that to done. Create a promo for the NerdDice.com series. So this one came out of the last NerdDice.com retrospective. You've probably already seen it on the videos for this epic. So it is done, and we can move it to done. Finally, the original Rubocop video is still our most watched video of all time, even though it's one of our first ones. Link to the most recent videos in the description of the original video. So let's take a look at our YouTube channel. And see how that is going. So we'll go to playlists. It's in our setup and configuration playlist. Oh, and here it is. So it's the first video in that. Install an initial setup. So if we go show more here, and just so you know, if this is your first rodeo in terms of stateless code videos, I usually provide this level of detail in the video description. So I've got links to the various kind of highlight points in the video. I've got some hashtags that you can use to search based on, and then in this case, I added a note saying this is one of the first videos we ever did. here are some of the other videos that touch on the topic of RuboCop, including the one we did in this epic just recently. So that one, I think we can move to done, and I have another idea in terms of action items that we'll get to when we hit the retro board itself. So back over here, this one we can move to done. So I'm satisfied with how we hit our action items from the previous retro. We knocked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 action items. So that's a good sign of healthy, continuous improvement. And obviously there are a bunch of informal things that might not wind up on this, but always be improving, looking for opportunities to get better at what we do. So now it's time to take a look at our retro board for our specific retro board for this epic. And as has become kind of the tradition for Stateless Code retrospectives, we've got a theme in terms of the animated GIFs that show up here. So Back to the Future, the idea of time affecting the need to update and maintain your projects that exist. You can't just leave something, even if it's really good, just by existing and time passing, it will become outdated and need of maintenance. And somebody might not think of that because, I mean, digital, it's all ones and zeros, it's logic, but the ecosystem around you changes. There are things like signing certificates that expire and need to be re-upped, and similar to maintaining a house or a building. Like, there are routine things that you have to do in order to keep the thing from falling down. And we kind of let things fall down on this gem. So it had to spend some time allocating effort to do some maintenance stuff. In terms of the actual value of what was delivered, it's fairly negligible outside of the videos themselves. So the gem updates, I dropped 2.7 support, which allowed me to refactor the code a little bit, remove a little. I had like one if statement that was dependent upon Ruby version. We knocked out the one code smell, but for somebody actually using the NerdDice gem, as long as you're not relying on that certificate, your changes from January of 2023 to end of February 23 are pretty much non-existent. We didn't implement any new features. Everything that was working from a code standpoint still works well now. It's just certificates updated, the versions have been released more recently. So we have some. Now that we've talked about the theme here, let's take a look at what went well. So we hit, in the last episode, fittingly as a release episode, we hit 100 episodes for this RubyGem series. This is episode 101, and it's the first series that we have that has hit that milestone in terms of number of videos. I've got, I think, 230 something videos, including this one, which as of today obviously is unpublished. When I'm recording it, not when you're watching it, you get the idea. All that timey-wimey fourth dimension stuff going on here. Anyway, I had the presence of mind to split the changelog and release stories into separate videos, and as noted here, it's a good thing. See the to improve section. So the changelog combined with backporting those things to make the changelog true took kind of over an hour to work out, and there were other issues there. So kind of right before I did that, I was like, all right, let's make these separate issues and separate videos, because I had a feeling that it would be too much going on in one video. And I maybe even could have split it up between actually doing the backporting of the changes in one video and the changelog in another video. But they were so related that, I mean, it is what it is. To quote the greatest football coach of all time. Oh, thumbs down, dislike. So, anyway, I'm a Patriots fan. Don't hold it against me too much. I'm a more dedicated anarchist than I am a Patriots fan. So, if you already dislike that, then I'm just narrowing down that niche. Riches in the niches. Anyway, I really liked the teaching aspect of the code smell fix video. It was only a couple of lines of code itself, but I was able to explain kind of the why of code health and maintainability, cognitive complexity, the idea of trying to break things down into smaller components, some of the principles of functional programming, and then I hit, as I usually do, one of my favorite things to preach on in software development, having good tests. So you can make that change with confidence if you've got a robust test suite, which we do. So I even on purpose fat-fingered something to show kind of, oh, this is what happens if you mess it up. If you don't have good tests, you can introduce new issues when trying to fix old ones. Your code becomes less maintainable, and ultimately your ability to deliver value to users and do so efficiently gets impacted. Here, so from present me to future me, I wrote the instructions on how to replace the signing certificate for the gem in the commit message so I can refer to it later. So if we go back to our commits here, I provided in the commit message step-by-step instructions for how to do that. I haven't written the video show notes page for that yet, but it'll probably have that as well. But this comes in handy. So a lot of times, like my release videos and stuff like that, these videos help future me when I make them. So I can go back and like, how did I do this last time? This isn't something I do often. And so I can come back and, all right, I followed this process and it worked. So things like that, I, as a producer, can help me as a viewer when the next time I go about trying to have to solve one of these problems. Let's see here. Video length for all but one of the videos was in the sweet spot of what I want. So we were, other than that one that went like an hour and 15 minutes that I've already discussed with regard to backporting the changes and doing the changelog, all the other ones are kind of between 10 and 30 minutes, which is kind of what I'm aiming for in terms of video length. So I'm happy with that. It's kind of a meta YouTuber comment. And then one last thing I have is a shout out to the amazing Atharva. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, for offering to contribute to the project. And his GitHub profile is awesome. So if you go here, hello there, General Kenobi. He's got links to his socials, got kind of and he's doing a lot. You can see a lot of contributions going on here. Very active and helping. So the story about this is when I made the contributing video, like I created the issue and then started recording the video for it immediately. While I was recording the video, this Atharva saw the gem, saw the issue, and offered to help contribute to the contribution guidelines for the gem. Ultimately, the particular contribution wasn't one that I was interested in having, a code of conduct, but still check out his profile, and I think he's also on Twitter. I'll shout him out in the kind of at him when I release this video. But the profile here, we'll see in the far right column on action items. So thank you again, Atharva, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but that was pretty cool, and it's good to see, like, even if there isn't, he doesn't wind up contributing again to one of our projects, we've got an action item, like we can say, oh, hey, that's that README idea on a profile, both for my personal profile and for the stateless code profile, is a cool idea. Let's adopt it, and so that is in our action items column here. So now let's take a look at what we can improve. We've got, there are some great audio visuals in Back to the Future about things that are going wrong and stuff. So the Christopher Lloyd's facial expressions are priceless. Anyway, nothing I would say rose to the level of being red here in terms of things that can be improved. The process of selecting and backporting changes to the older stable branches was tedious and made for a really long video. I think we've already solved the action item for that, which is to, in our security policy here, officially deprecated the lower versions and end-of-lifed them starting a year from when the gem signing certificate was replaced. So the next time we go and do something, provided it's not a hair on fire security issue, I only need to update the master branch and 0.5 and release a patch version there. So that, I think, will make the gem more maintainable and solve that, what we can improve part of that. So I'm trying to think, the groundwork for that improvement has already been laid. Inconsistent with signing on cherry-picked commits. So the kind of get cherry-pick continue and all that other stuff that goes on. I don't think I did it right every time, especially when there were conflicts that needed to be resolved. So there were situations where I missed signing a cherry pick and I had to go in and rebase against the last, kind of the commit before the first unsigned ones, and do the edit and sign, like get commit, amend, sign, and then get rebase continue, get commit, amend, sign, get rebase continue, etc. So it did work, but and if you again run into that problem ever in one of your projects, you can see how I solved it. It went long. And then finally, I got mixed up between the NerdDice RubyGem project and the NerdDice.com Rails project in both, in terms of, there was a problem that was related to the NerdDice.com project on the debug gem that I mistakenly thought was a problem with this gem, but it's not. The debug gem isn't part of my gemfile.log for the NerdDice RubyGem at all. So I had referenced it in the issue, and then I'm like, oh wait, this is the wrong project. So, and then on the flip side of things, when the issues log is referred to in nerddice.com, I'm actually accidentally referring to the NerdDice RubyGem issues, so I need to go back and fix that that contributing guidelines on the other project. I've already got a backlog item for that. So now we can take a look at what we want to improve. So in this case, we've got Doc here ready to set things up. So the main thing, and you can see it's all caps here, set a reminder to update the gem signing certificate before it expires next time. So I will put something on my calendar to allow myself enough time, probably at 11 and a half months from now, to make sure that I go in and update the gem signing certificate, release a version of 0.5 that and whatever other supported versions we've got at that point that uses the new gem signing certificate, and not have a lapse where there's an expired certificate. Experiment with YouTube end screens. So I've got, again, like 230 something videos. I've never done an end screen before. I've seen it used before, and I think it can help drive potentially subscriptions and references from one video to another, that sort of thing. So I'm going to experiment with that. I'll probably start with my mediocre karaoke videos because they're short, and I think there's a higher probability to get those to the kind of the whole purpose. I even have a promo in there to say, hey, I'm not a great singer, but I'm a good coder. Check out my coding videos. So facilitating that in an end screen, I think, would be a worthwhile endeavor to experiment with. Finally, we're going to create README files for my personal and stateless code GitHub profiles, and I'll do a video where I do that. It will go in probably the setup and config playlist. It's not part of this project. It's not part of the NerdDice.com project or anything like that. It's kind of its own standalone thing, but we have that set up in config playlist that we can add it to. So the way that I go about doing this is that I take the text here, go back into the action items, hit plus, paste it in, convert it into an action item, assign it to me, and hit enter. And you get the idea for how I'll do the other ones. I'll pause, and the next thing we're going to see is you can see over my shoulder the beautiful piece of artwork from my daughter J Moore Art, and we'll kind of take an up close look at that, and then our Mediocre karaoke song, going with the idea of time passing and all that, is going to be Dust in the Wind by Kansas, and I'll be trying to harmonize with myself. We'll see how it goes. You can always hit stop. Warning here, you don't have to be a hero. You can stop before the singing starts, or shortly after the singing starts. You'll be motivated to stop. But we will see you in, I guess, well, check out our other series, NerdDice.com. We've got some setup and config videos. It might be a while before we publish again to the NerdDice RubyGem series, so this would be a good time to branch out, learn some Rails. I've got some videos on playing around with Inkscape. I've got some now also neglected stuff about WordPress themes for my statelesscode.com website. Again, 230 something videos. You'll find something that you can learn. We'll see you in the art review. All right, it is the art review time of this retro. So within, I think starting with the first retro of the NerdDice.com series, I started featuring some art in the background of my video, kind of in front of my 3D printer on the shelf over there. This is, here we go, art from my daughter. You can follow her at JMorpArt. You can see it kind of at the bottom there on Instagram. This piece is called A Special Place, and it's with her characters, Karnak and his dog, Indomius. It's kind of a Shadowfell D&D sort of thing, but in this case, it's a I'm overlooking the valley. The color palette of this I just love. It's very, very beautiful, kind of with a magical tree, sentimental sort of thing. Karnak is the same character. If you watched the last retro that we had of the NerdDice.com series, was kind of hiding behind a rock, getting fire breathed on him by a red dragon. So this is a same characters, but in a much more serene and beautiful format there. So check out JMorp Art on Instagram. I'll continue featuring pieces from her in my future videos, and potentially some stuff from my other kids in the event that something works out. But yeah, check her out. It's definitely, we appreciate the follows and the increased boost for her art. You'll be seeing a new piece starting in the next section that I do, which will be back on the NerdDice Ruby on Rails application, and starting to do some user experience interviews, market research on what I'm going to develop next on that. And yeah, next. So this is the part where you want to stop if you don't want to hear me sing. Like, hit the subscribe button, hit the like and subscribe button. Don't let the singing color your judgment of that. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then hit stop. Got it? Good. This pre-song Mediocre Carry banter has been brought to you by Ecclesiastes, the book in the Bible exposing vanity since, I don't know, 1000 AD. Anyway, along that theme, vanity and dust, and the fact that as time passes, things that even were in good shape become neglected and disrepair, even code. That's kind of my decision, or the motivating factor behind the decision to do Dust in the Wind by Kansas as my mediocre Carry song. Mediocre Carry, Carry is not mediocre. Carrie Livgren wrote this song in 1977, maybe less than 2 years before his conversion to Christianity. And this song kind of echoes that Ecclesiastes dissatisfaction with the vanity of vanities that can be life under the sun. So that all we are is dust in the wind. All your money won't another minute buy. Like all the and beyond that, it's a beautiful song. I'm going to ruin it by singing it, so I encourage you to listen to the real version, which I have linked to in the comments. This is going to be, I'm going to try to harmonize with myself. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, Dust in the Wind, 1977, from the album Point of No Return. That's no with a K, not with an N, by Kansas. And it was the second single released off of it after the title track. It remains one of my favorite popular music songs, and so I'm going to butcher it here, because, I mean, vanity.
Only
So there you have that dose of vanity. You are dust, and to dust you will return. And those 3 minutes and 30 seconds of your life that you have just spent listening to this song, you're not getting them back. So I'm sorry that sometimes life under the sun is vanity. And this was one of those times. But there is hope beyond life under the sun. So Jesus Christ died, risen, ascended, reigning and ruling now. He's Lord. Thanks for watching this Stateless Code video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and spread the word. Check out our growing library of videos on our social media channels. Follow us at Stateless Code, and Taxation is Theft.